What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NFL Turf Talk presented to you by DSM Media. You can find DSM Media on X at DSM_media. You can find myself at Scotty Drown on X. With that being said, we are here. It's pretty straightforward. Week 15 preview with the full NFL slate here. Obviously, we're not going to dig into each and every single game that we have on the slate here, but I am going to dig into most of the more competitive ones, the better matchups that we're looking at here. So I got 6 different games written down here from the 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. slate that we'll dive into. Sunday Night Football is a great matchup, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We got 2 Monday Night Football matchups tomorrow night. I'm not super interested, but we do have some playoff teams in the mix there, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Overall, just going over expectations going into week 15. This has been a wild season to say the least. And we got some big game changers, game changing games today, season changing games in a sense. You got Buffalo at Detroit today. You got Pittsburgh at Philadelphia. Those are the 2 big marquee matchups for my money. You got Miami at Houston, which I think is a great matchup, despite Miami's, lackluster record. They've been playing a lot better since Tua came back. And the Texans, once again, they get a spot where they can kind of prove themselves to be a playoff team, to be a competitive team, to be able to beat a decent to good team in the Miami Dolphins. So we'll be keeping my eyes on that one. Kansas City at Cleveland, that's a close spread. Dallas at Carolina, that's more of just a funny game. That doesn't have huge implications on the season, but that is a funny-ass matchup, to say the least. But we'll get into all of that, guys. Welcome to Week 15 once again, and thank you all for tuning in. Let me check some of the comments here. Make sure we are shared out on X. So I know we get some viewers over there. All right. So we are live on X. That is locked in. All right. And I didn't mention it at the beginning of the show, but we will get into best bets towards the end of the show as well for the full NFL Sunday slate. So I do have 3 of my favorite plays of the day for you guys. Comments, yeah, this is just myself letting you guys know if you want to get involved in the show, tap in, comment on the YouTube channel. We'll get you involved on the screen here, just like this. Week 15, you already know. Terry, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you. Good morning. No Niners football today. That's probably a good thing at this point in the season for you. We know what went down on Thursday, right? It was not impressive from either side, in my opinion. Now, you could take a little away with the Rams defense for sure. I mean, this was just like a shit show to me, though. 12-6. You had 18 total points. This was a game I was expecting to see a little bit of offensive firepower, especially when you look at the Rams side after what they put up against the Buffalo Bills the week before. Some people came out of this game with positive insights on the LA Rams. Their defense, right? They were able to hold the 49ers to 6 points, 2 field goals. 49ers did not get in the end zone. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't super impressive to me. It was on a short week. I know Matthew Stafford is not the greatest on short weeks, especially at this age in his career. So maybe take that into account a bit. I will say that, though, Terry, the Dre Greenlaw, he is one of my favorite 49ers, and I don't have a lot because I don't like the 49ers much at all. But Dre Greenlaw is definitely high up on that list. Just the personality, the mentality, the energy that he brings to that defensive unit. I think that's where they get a lot of their grittiness and their what I don't like about him, quite honestly, the not backing down, the talking big shit during the games, right? Getting in your face. I think that is a lot of Dre Greenlaw's energy. I think that's why I like him. But in return, it's bittersweet. I hate him also. I hate the 49ers. But it was good to see him back out there after I believe it was an Achilles tear during the postseason last year, which was it was just brutal to watch. Sunday Fun Day. Thank you for tapping in. Let's get into it, guys. Let's start with the 1 p.m. slate. We'll go from there, kind of go through the list. I have my games in order of kind of interest, I guess, intrigue, right? Intrigue within the matchup. So to give you perspective, the number one game on my list for the 1 p.m. slate is the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans. Now, is this like the barn burner? No, it's not the greatest matchup in the world, but it is a solid competitive matchup for my liking. You look at the Dolphins, 6-7 right now. Once again, been playing much, much better once Tua has returned to the lineup. Obviously, they don't have much behind Tua there. But aside from that, the thing about Miami this season that has been very cool to watch or interesting to watch, their defense. Their defense is sturdy. Their defense is solid. Now, there's been a lot of talk because Vic Fangio goes to Philadelphia. Vic Fangio obviously having success in Philly. Philly has the number one overall defense in the NFL statistically right now. So Vic Fangio is having success. There was a lot of talk and a lot of discomfort around Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins the last couple of years. And there was a lot of talk from players, obviously, this offseason about how excited they were to not be playing under him. But in this case, it does appear that both sides kind of won out. You look at the Miami Dolphins, they're the number 9 overall defense in the NFL this season. And that is with Tua missing a good part of the season, which means their team was very unbalanced for a good amount of the season while Tua was out. And they're still a top 10 defense statistically coming in to this game today. So I do find that interesting with the Miami Dolphins. If Tua was there the whole season, what does it look like? Now, we have seen them in bigger matchups with Tua, and they're not like a contender. I'm not going that far, but they could probably be in the playoff mix if Tua, plays most of this season. It doesn't have another one of those concussions. So it is interesting from the Miami standpoint. From Houston's side, you have Houston coming in 8-5. It's been a little bit of a rocky road for the Houston Texans. I do believe, let's just double check here. No, so they had the bye week after the loss to the Titans. So they are 2-2 in their last 4. They're actually 2-3 in their last 5. So Texans aren't in a great stretch for them this season. The 3 losses in that stretch, you had the loss to the Jets, who have 3 wins on the season so far. You had a loss to the Lions. Okay, fair enough. You beat the Cowboys. You lose to the Titans, who is another team with just 3 wins this season. And then you go on the road and beat the Jags by 3. So the Texans have not looked hot. Stephon Diggs' injury is not helping at all. That being said, this is a big, big prove-it spot for the Texans. And you look at the Texans. I found this interesting looking at these two teams. The Texans are hoisting up the number 5 overall defense in the NFL statistically. So you have 2 top 10 defenses going at it today. You have 2 offenses that, for my money, have not lived up to expectations this season. Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, A-Chain. And then on the other side, you have the Texans with Mixon and Tank Dell and Nico Collins and CJ Stroud. So it hasn't worked out for either offenses this season, in my opinion, especially the way that I expected it. But it's going to be a big test for these defenses. It's going to be a big test for the offenses in reverse. And I'm interested to see who can come out on top of this matchup. Ultimately, I am going to lean Houston at home. And I see you, D-Rab. I ain't ignoring you in the comments, man. Yeah, definitely check your fantasy lineups. And guys, if you have any questions about fantasy, I know it's playoffs right now, definitely throw those in the comments. I'm not an expert by any means, but I could definitely give you my opinion and just what I'm seeing across the league. I know me and D-Rab are competing in a couple of different leagues, so don't know how much help I'll give him. But yeah, definitely check your lineups today, guys. D-Rab thinks that Dolphins win or cover. They definitely can. And when I say I picked the Texans to win this game at home, it's a 2.5 point spread. It could be a 1 or 2 point game, a 1 or 2 point win. The Texans have had a lot of wins by a lot of games decided within that small amount. So how many games have they had decided by 4 or less? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games this season that the Texans have had where the game's been decided by 4 or less points. So the Dolphins definitely have a chance here, man. And you talk about getting into the playoff mix. I know it's a long shot for the Dolphins. I'm just checking here. 6-7. So you got. Let's take a look at the playoff picture. So Miami is sitting at 9th right now behind the Colts. They would ultimately have to catch up to the Denver Broncos, the LA Chargers of the world at 8-5. So it is a long shot, of course. But to D-Rab's point, if the Dolphins win or cover here, boom, you're talking about being right back in the mix here to try to get back into that playoff picture. So we'll see how it plays out. I lean Houston in this one. I do think it's going to be close. I think these are two sturdy defenses. It's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. Got a playoff scenario. So Marvin Harrison Jr., Devontae Smith, Jalen Reed, all fighting for a spot in your lineup. Also has Zay and McLaurin, but I feel like those two are must starts right now. It's not PPR though. So not PPR. I do agree. Zay and McLaurin, they're the number ones, right? They're the guys that are going to get fed today. Smitty is so interesting. And this is every week, obviously, opposite of AJ Brown. Against the Steelers, though, a good defense, a great defense, right? And you think of great defenses, what do they try to do? They try to take away pieces or weapons in kind of the order of significance. And I do think the Steelers will operate in the likes of Saquon Barkley first objective to stop, AJ Brown number 2, and then you start getting into the Smitties, maybe talking about Jalen's legs and stuff like that. So Devontae Smith is interesting just because there could be a lot of attention elsewhere, which could lend him opportunities to show himself. Jalen Reed, it's a huge matchup with the Seahawks tonight. The Seahawks have a pretty sturdy secondary, but Jalen Reed has shown to be that reliable target for Jordan Love, and he feels like a touchdown machine. I could be wrong there. Had 0. Yeah. Yeah, that makes it really tough. It makes it really tough. So he's kind of like a home run shot guy, but he has been solid this year. I do feel like he's Jordan Love's favorite target when it comes to the end zone between him and Christian Watson. So Jalen Reed is interesting. Marvin Harrison Jr., he's obviously probably the most talented guy on that list, on that comment here, but just hasn't shown the consistency, man. That's probably the one I'm least confident in. But yeah, I do ultimately agree. Zay and McLaurin, and then I'd probably go Smitty or Reed from there. Thinks Colts beat Broncos today. Yeah, that could open it wide open for the Miami Dolphins, of course. Eagles get the pass game going. It'll be AJ after everything, and they want to feed Barkley. Yeah, that's fair. At the end of the day, they will go to AJ first. AJ's been making a lot of noise, obviously. But I say he's been making a lot of. He said one thing after the game that got blown up over the last week. So I do think they will make a point to get him the ball. But yeah, thanks for the question. If you got any more fantasy questions, definitely throw those in the comments there. But moving on to my next game that I'm looking at here, and it's the Kansas City Chiefs at the Cleveland Browns. You got the 12-1 Chiefs visiting the 3-10 Cleveland Browns. Yeah, Rocket is just going nuclear in the background here. I guess somebody's at the door, but we'll tend to that later. Nonetheless, 12-1 KC at 3-10 Cleveland Browns. Coming into this one, KC was a 4-point favorite, 4.5. I think the line shifted a little bit here. The Browns Super Bowl, that is interesting. That's an interesting perspective there because it very well could be the case. 4-point spread for Kansas City versus Cleveland. I know it's in Cleveland. This is a weird one, but not in the way that I feel most people may be looking at this one today. I feel like typically this would be a kind of a shock spot or a chance of a letdown type of situation for Kansas City, but I just think with the way Kansas City has been playing lately, it's almost like they've taken little mini losses along the way, even though they've only taken one loss, if that makes sense. So I don't view them coming into this game asleep or, not ready to play, for example, like the Eagles last week against the Carolina Panthers, for example. But that being said, even if they come prepared to play, they've been played closely all this season. There's been a ton of games for them that have been decided by one possession or less. Their last three games, they've won 19-17 against the Chargers, 19-17 against the Raiders, 30-27 against the Panthers. And so I feel like obviously, you come into this game, you see the 4.5-point spread for the Browns, and it's in Cleveland, it's at the dog pound, and you lean Cleveland to cover, right? I'm on the other side. I'm on the other side of it today, and I think this is a weird matchup where KC covers the spread, and KC actually has a decent day today against the Cleveland Browns. They actually look like a 12-1 football team in this game today. Is kind of what I'm feeling. D-Rab says, won't surprise me if Browns win. Surprise, no, I guess, because the Browns, they are playing spoiler. Like you said, it could be their Super Bowl. Yeah, it should be a KC dub, in my opinion. The Browns aren't good. And I think the part that sucks for the Browns is, like, their defense was supposed to be the calling card. And it's not. I just want to confirm here. Where is the Browns defense ranked? I saw it last night, didn't write it down for some reason. So overall, the Browns defense, 21st in the NFL, so not a top 20 defense. 22nd against the run, 13th against the pass, 26 scoring defense, but overall 21st in the NFL. The offense overall 22nd in the NFL, 30th ranked rushing offense, 15th ranked pass offense. Ultimately, I just don't think the Cleveland Browns are a good football team at this point. Jameis, he makes things fun. He makes things interesting. He can put up some points, but he's a turnover machine. I think that does not bode well against the Kansas City Chiefs. You can't afford to turn the football over. But I am interested, man. Can Patrick Mahomes come out here and look like the best quarterback in the NFL, like he is supposed to look? Can he come out, not turn the football over? Can they run the football today against a defense that isn't great against the run? They're not necessarily great against anything. So I am interested to see what Kansas City does today. I do think Kansas City ultimately wins this game, covers the spread, and maybe even blows them out. I could honestly see it, but we'll see. It's in the dog pound. Maybe I'm not giving Cleveland enough credit here today. The next game that we're going to look at here before we just jump through the rest of the 1 p.m. slate, we have the Dallas Cowboys at the Carolina Panthers. Dallas coming into this one 5-8, Carolina Panthers 3-10. Carolina Panthers 3-point favorites in this one. It is in Carolina. I'm interested on y'all's thoughts on this one because it feels weird. It feels like a trap because, like, instantly my mind says, yeah, Carolina at home -3. Like, they just played the Eagles tough. Let's make it clear. They just played the Eagles tough, 22-16. They just took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to overtime, 26-23. Week before that, 30-27 loss to the Chiefs. Week before that, they beat the Giants in Germany. Then they beat the Saints. So they've been playing a lot better. The Carolina Panthers I'm talking about here. It feels like a trap. It feels like a trap because the Panthers are favored to win as a 3-win football team. And Dallas is bad this year. But are they so bad that they can't take advantage of bad football teams? This is an interesting game. I'm staying away from the spread as a whole. Smells fishy, but Panthers should not win. Interesting. Should not win. I'm interested. Why do you think they should not win? Because I guess the way I'm looking at this, right? Who has the better quarterback situation? And I know we're comparing we're comparing the worst of the worst here. But Bryce Young versus Cooper Rush. Like, who would you rather have? Bryce Young has been playing a lot better. Like, at least last week from what I saw against the Eagles. He looked a lot better. Yeah, so the Titans actually have the Bengals today, which that's another shitstorm matchup, but okay. I get where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from. Yeah, definitely. Because if it was Panthers and Bengals, I would lean Bengals ultimately. Dallas Cowboys, though, it's interesting, right? And the thing that scares me with the Panthers in this one, just to be clear here, is the Dallas pass rush. Micah Parsons, he was bawling his little eyes out last week after the loss to the Bengals. That was just whatever. That's Dallas's problem, but it does worry me a little bit here, just their front four. But it just feels like a game where Chuba Hubbard touchdown and Carolina Panthers money line should slam, but there's just no way that I can trust it. That's fair, man. They're not a good football team. They need to get better. And at this point, the draft pick should be their highest concern. You don't have Dak the rest of the year. You don't have a running back really. It is interesting, but they'll come out, man. They will. They'll come out. They'll beat the Panthers by like 10 plus, and then all of a sudden the Cowboys are back. Are they making a push towards the playoffs? Even though they like lost last week. You know what I mean? Like, this is the world we live in. But no, this is a game that I'm staying away from a spread perspective. But something I do like in this game is the total. I believe it is over 43. So on ESPN, on the ESPN app, it says over 42.5 right now. So it actually even shifted down half a point. But I do like that. I do, at the end of the day, I talked about Dallas's front four. You talk about some of the offensive struggles with these teams. Carolina is hoisting up the 32nd ranked rush defense. The Dallas Cowboys are hoisting up the 30th ranked rush defense. So whose rushing attack is going to take advantage of the piss poor opposition? I think both running backs, Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle, could have decent days today. And I think we could get into the 20s for each of these teams. So I do like the over 43. And if I had to lean one way or the other, I think I would lean Carolina. But yeah, once again, stay away. Just to fly through the rest of the 1 p.m. slate, the rest of these games don't intrigue me too much here. Just to be frank with you guys. So you got Baltimore 8-5 at the New York Giants 2-11. Baltimore is a 16.5 point favorite the last time I checked. That remains the same. I'm going Baltimore here, obviously. New York Giants are arguably the worst team in the NFL. Might not even be arguable. They might just clearly be the worst team in the NFL. We'll see how the season finishes out for them, but I am going to Ravens here and in a bounce back spot. Get things right after the bye week. New York Jets 3-10 at the 3-10 Jacksonville Jaguars. Talk about a game filled with teams that couldn't meet expectations, to say the least here. I am going to lead the New York Jets in this one. No Trevor Lawrence on the other side. I think he may be done for season. The Jags are wrapping it up. They're about done. They're about cooked. The Jets are cooked as well. They're not making the playoffs. They're not going to even get close, but they do still have more talent than the Jags. I'll give them that. So I do lean Jets on the road today, but we'll see. That's a shit show. The Washington Commanders 8-5 at the New Orleans Saints. I was about to say the Pelicans, that NBA brain there for a minute. The New Orleans Saints 5-8 right now. Washington is an 8-point favorite in that game. I do like Washington on the road. Things can get a little greasy down there in New Orleans, but no Derek Carr. That team is heavily beat up as well. I'll go Commanders on the road. Cincinnati 5-8 at the Tennessee Titans 3-10. This is the game that you were talking about, D-Rab. Bengals. Can they finally cover a spread? Like, they're 5.5-point favorites against the Tennessee Titans. It is on the road. Can you cover the spread? I do like the Bengals today. I do think they've been playing better football. I do think their defense is heavily suspect, but I think they are better than the Tennessee Titans today. I think they have some fun and let loose on the Titans today in a season that's kind of gone to shit for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I do like the Bengals to cover the spread and get the W in Tennessee today. With the 1 p.m. slate, just to give you an idea, that's 5 out of 7 road dogs that I'm picking today. I went with KC on the road, Baltimore on the road, Jets on the road, Commanders on the road, and Bengals on the road today. The only home teams that I'm taking are the Houston Texans and the Carolina Panthers. That being said, those two teams could easily lose. We could have a slate where all road teams win today, but we'll see how the 1 p.m. slate ends up playing out. Let's move to the 4 p.m. slate. Got some better matchups here. Yes, 1 p.m. slate, poverty. You are absolutely correct, D-Rab. But 4 p.m. slate, we got some bangers, and then we do have a banger for Sunday Night Football that I love as well between the Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers, a game with so many playoff implications. But all of these games at 4 p.m., quite frankly, have some playoff implications. Just double check. Yeah, actually, all of these games, and I'm not overselling it here. Even the Indianapolis Colts and the Denver Broncos, Colts 6-7, Broncos 8-5. Obviously, that has a big impact on the bottom of the AFC wildcard table. Sure, New England 3-10 at the Arizona Cardinals 6-7. New England obviously not in the mix, but the Cardinals trying to stay in the mix in the NFC playoff picture and the NFC West division race. The Cardinals are 6-point favorites there. So even those two games, who are not in my most intriguing matchups list here, those two games do have playoff implications. Give you an idea, I'm going Denver, I'm actually going Colts. I don't know why I said Denver. I had the Colts circled on my page here. I am going the Colts in this one. I think the Colts match up really well with Denver. The only kicker here, and the reason it's not like a best bet or, me going in and hammering the Colts, it is in Denver. So that does worry me a little bit, but I do like the Colts in the way they match up with the Denver Broncos in this one. In New England, Arizona, I'm going Arizona at home. This is a bounce back opportunity for them, so they better take advantage. Let's get to the good stuff. This is the guy that was on the cover of our thumbnail for the show here today, Dan Campbell. We have his Detroit Lions hosting the Buffalo Bills, the 10-3 Buffalo Bills, coming in today at the 4 p.m. slate. This is easily the best matchup of the weekend. I know there's another matchup that obviously I have more interest in, but this is the matchup of the weekend. You got the MVP candidate, the MVP favorite, going against the Super Bowl favorite right now. And I know everybody might not agree with lines as Super Bowl favorites, but they are literally the Super Bowl favorite right now at plus 270. Josh Allen right now, MVP favorite at minus 400. So he is running away with that one. Had a monster game last week. Had a monster game before that. He's had a monster season. Going to give him the credit where it's due at this point. He's balling out right now. But this matchup, man, this is a hell of a matchup. And what makes it so intriguing for me is that the Buffalo Bills are in a tough spot here in a sense. Excuse me. Got a little bit of a hiccup there. The Buffalo Bills are in a little bit of a tough spot, especially after the loss to the Rams last week. Now, is it the worst loss in the world to lose to the Rams on the road? No, it's not. But it is a bad spot when you're trying to compete for the number one seed in the AFC, when it's so important to get that home field advantage in the AFC with a team like the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes over there at 12-1. Must win? Is it a must win game for the Buffalo Bills? It's not the end of the world if they lose, but it is a game they need. They are coming off a loss, a game that they should have won. They are a better team than the LA Rams, right? They let up 44 points. That is my worry going into this one for the Buffalo Bills. Can the Buffalo defense stop that Detroit offense? And after what we saw from the Rams last weekend, we saw Puka Nacua go off. We saw Kyron Williams kind of do what he wanted against the Buffalo Bills last week. It does worry me, but Josh Allen went toe-to-toe with an entire team last week. It's Josh Allen, James Cook, and the other guys out there in Buffalo right now. And Josh Allen can give you a Superman performance that can get you a W on the road in Detroit. He can do it. It is a little sketchy. It is a little sketchy for me. I will say this is the spot, like for Detroit to lose another game. This is the spot where I feel like it needs to happen. There's some other games on the schedule. I think they play the Niners in San Fran. They play the Vikings. I think they play the Vikings in Detroit. So they have for the matchups that they have the rest of the season, the Detroit Lions I'm talking about, they have favorable advantages in those matchups already as a team that's a 12-win football team this season. So it's going to be tough for Buffalo on the road. I am interested to see if Josh Allen can put up another Superman-like performance. Yeah, I agree. Or Pittsburgh and Philly at one or the other. Like put one of those games at one of those games at 4. That way we can view both of the best games of the week. But instead you put two slobber knockers. I haven't used that word in a minute, but 2 slobber knockers at 4 p.m. at the same time, so that you have to either like being splitting your attention or just literally ignoring one of the 2 games, which that's what I'll be doing. I'll be watching only the Eagles and Steelers, but I would like to know how this game plays. I would like to keep up with it. I can't while the Birds are playing, unfortunately, but it's going to be a hell of a game. Look, I'm going Bills in this one, but I'm totally biased. I need the Bills to win this game ultimately. Don't lose this game and let Barkley have 200 yards rushing. Man, I want to look at Allen's stats real quick, because this man had like 5 touchdowns last week, man. So last week, Josh Allen, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns through the air, 3 touchdowns on the ground. He had 82 yards rushing to go along with the 342 passing yards. Yeah, it's crazy. Like even in a loss, those are the type of numbers that do like lock in your MVP standing, in my opinion. He had 3 touchdowns, maybe 4 touchdowns the week before, because he had a receiving touchdown in that one as well. So he's putting up numbers, man. I don't know. I don't know if Barkley can get back in it, but if Barkley can stay on pace to, continue, trying to break that rushing record, it can get a little tighter, especially if the Bills drop some games down the stretch here. But yeah, I do. I want the Bills to win. I like the Bills in this one, but it's going to be hard as hell to beat Detroit in Detroit, especially with that Buffalo defense. Probably only bring up the other game on my laptop if our game is a blowout somehow. Don't even talk about that. That's not. Well, I guess the Eagles could blow the Steelers out. That's fair. Tush push. Yeah, we got to do what wins, man. It's not about individual awards at the end of the day. You speak on the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not just going to ignore this game, although we will have Eagles pregame right after this at 12 p.m. noon start there. 10-3 Pittsburgh Steelers coming off a big win against the Cleveland Browns. Playing some really good football of late. Russell Wilson playing some really good football of late. Excuse me. No George Pickens in this one. Makes it really interesting for me. Now, don't get it twisted. I would love to have George Pickens in this game. I want to see the Eagles be tested as much as they possibly can. But I do think that is a huge loss. That is the guy, for my money, who puts fear in my heart out of anybody on that offense. You got Najee Harris, Jay Warren, what is it, Calvin Austin? You've got some guys, Mike Williams. George Pickens takes a little bit of the sting out of it, but I'm not sleeping on Russell Wilson spreading the ball around. Pat Freiermuth, he seems like a guy that could be pretty annoying. No, it isn't. It isn't. It's all about team. Low-key love the Steelers receiver props. They are all around 20 to 30 yards. Yeah, that's the thing. Like Calvin Austin, Mike Williams, these type of guys, they could get that amount of yards in one catch, to be fair. So I do feel you there. That's not a bad call. No, I don't think it's about fixing it. I think it's just the ball will be spread around for Pittsburgh. They don't have one guy that the ball is going to, a guy that's going to get 5, 6, 7 plus targets. So it's about whoever makes the most of their opportunity with those targets today, whether it's 3 to 4 targets that they might get at most. You got the number 4 rushing defense in Pittsburgh going against the number 1 rushing offense. That's obviously something we'll be paying attention to here. Can the Steelers force the Eagles to win through the air? That's something that basically no one has been able to do to the Philadelphia Eagles for the last 10 plus weeks. On this win streak that the Eagles have had. So can the Pittsburgh Steelers make the Philadelphia Eagles one-dimensional? That's something that I am keeping my eye on. And then in return, can Jalen get going through the air? Can he build a rhythm through the air? Can we get up in the 200 yards passing of the world, right, against a solid Pittsburgh Steelers defense? The main thing for me here, 5.5 point spread for the Philadelphia Eagles, 11-2 in the season. At home, who wins the turnover battle? I think turnovers mean more in this type of game. You got 2 sturdy defenses. You got 2 offenses that are putting up pretty good numbers this season. I would take Eagles offense over Steelers, obviously, but it is going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. I will give my official prediction on Eagles pregame after this over on the DSM Media Philadelphia channel. So definitely head over there, subscribe, and tune in around noon for that. That's where we'll pick up the conversation there. Did tell someone in my Discord to stay away from Russ 200 passing yards. The thing about Russ and 200 passing yards that is intriguing. The Eagles have played from in front for most of this season, right? They run the football, they chew up clock. What I'm trying to get at, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have to pass the football, and I think they're going to have to do it a lot in the second half to kind of keep up with the Philadelphia Eagles. It's not to say the Steelers won't win this game or come back from behind late and win this game. I do just think we're going to see Russ having to step back and throw that thing in the second half. I don't think they're going to be able to keep a balanced offense against this Eagles defense. I think Q or DeJean get a pick today. Russ loves throwing the ball up. Yeah. For some reason, it feels like Quinyon Mitchell Day. It's finally time for him to get a pick. It does feel that way, and I do feel that way for the same reasons you mentioned, throwing the ball up, those deep shots, just willing to test guys that you really shouldn't be testing out there in that secondary. But we'll see. No Pickens, yeah, they're definitely going to spread it around a little bit more. So we'll see about that. Pittsburgh at Philadelphia. Sucks it's at the same time as Buffalo and Detroit. The third matchup that I'm looking at here, to kind of round out our 4 p.m. slate look at or preview, whatever you want to call it. We got the 7-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers visiting the 8-5 LA Chargers. Coming into this game, the LA Chargers are 3-point favorites. Tampa Bay, they're such an interesting team. They've obviously had some big W's this year. They've been riddled by injuries this year, but they just seem to play almost everyone tough. They're coming off a W against the Raiders, 28-13. Had a close one against the Panthers. Blew out the Giants. Close one against the Niners. Close one against the Chiefs. Close one against the Falcons. Lost by 10 to the Ravens. This was during the stretch without Evans, though, to be clear. Obviously have wins against the Eagles, the Lions this season. So the Bucs, their resume says that they are a good football team, in my opinion. The teams that they've beaten, their track record when at least somewhat healthy, right? Mike Evans back in the lineup. They've been a very good football team. The LA Chargers, very similar in a sense. Like they have similar records, obviously, but the LA Chargers have played teams tough. I think Justin Herbert is having an amazing season despite having not as many weapons as it seems he's had in the past. They're able to run the football. The defense is sturdy out there in LA. Harbaugh's got those boys playing. So it is interesting from that perspective, looking at this matchup. This feels like iron on iron in a sense. But when I really dove into the numbers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they do have the number 3 overall offense. So Baker Mayfield has that offense chugging. Bucky Irvin, Rachaad White, they got a nice little duo trio in that backfield. Mike Evans has come back. He's still Mike Evans. They got some other guys helping out there on the outside in the absence of Chris Godwin, guys like Sterling Shepard, different guys there. 28th overall defense, though, in Tampa Bay, which is not their calling card, right? Todd Bowles, he's a defensive-minded head coach, but the 28th ranked overall defense. You look at the Chargers, they got the 11th overall defense, the 24th ranked overall offense. So you got a top 10-ish defense in the Chargers going against a top 3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. Then in reverse, you have a bottom 10 offense in the Chargers going against a bottom 5 defense in Tampa Bay. Makes for an interesting matchup. My gut, I'm going with my gut here, not giving this anything in this game as a best bet. I like the Bucs in this one. Weirdly enough, on the road in LA, I don't think on the road means anything when it comes to the Chargers, quite frankly. This is a big prove-it spot for the Chargers, though. They need to beat a team. They need to beat a good team, a playoff team, right? But the Bucs, they're not the world beaters, but they are a solid football team. I do like the Bucs in this one, though. I'll roll with Tampa Bay, but definitely not a best bet there. Monday Night Football, I'm going to get into that before I get into Sunday Night Football. I just feel like Sunday Night Football is much, much better matchups. Hey, what's up, James? Just found this channel. I feel like I've seen you here before, man. Maybe it's just because Dylan isn't here. It doesn't look familiar. This is a big day for the Detroit Lions. We were actually, well, I say we. I was actually just talking that game just a little bit ago. That is a huge matchup with Buffalo today. Definitely the biggest matchup of the weekend. Yeah, and Darius says people saying a lot of Bills defense is hurt. Yeah, that is what I've been reading as well. Buffalo defense is beat up, just gave up 44 to the LA Rams. We assume that the Detroit Lions offense is better than the LA Rams offense, with all due respect to Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams and the weapons that they have. I think this is a good perspective, Darius. Like, as an Eagles fan that would like the Lions to lose, this is a great week to be a Lions bettor, a Lions fan, if you like to bet on the Lions, because not very often you're going to get the Lions at minus 140 or even a 3-point spread, I think it is, 2.5. So yeah, definitely interesting. Appreciate that, James. Appreciate you being here. We're gonna have some battles over the next coming weeks, hopefully, as we get into the postseason. As an Eagles fan, it's fun to have you here. It's going to be fun to see how this plays out in the postseason because the Lions are that one team in my, as an Eagles fan, my track view to the Super Bowl. The Lions are that team that are in the way for my money. So it is going to be nice to see how that plays out. Josh Allen may have to take over. I don't think Lions can beat Josh Allen on the run anyways. Interesting. So how are you feeling, James? Are you feeling like what would you predict? Obviously, it appears you're a Lions fan by the picture there. But how are you feeling going into this game? Is this a W or like obviously as a fan, you're always gonna lean W, but like how are we feeling against the Buffalo Bills? Because if I'm being non-biased, if I take the Eagles fan perspective in what I want to happen out of the equation, the Lions at home are the play in this one. Like if I had to put my money on something, I would go Lions in this one at home against that Bills defense. But I do think he has that Superman ability in him. Like Josh Allen is one of the few quarterbacks in the NFL that has Superman abilities for one game. He can get you a W against anyone. So I think there is that factor when you have the MVP going against your team. I just think the Lions have a better unit, man. I think they're the better overall team this year. You have to spy Josh Allen and force him to beat you in the air. Sonic and Knuckles can get it going. It could be a long day for the Bills. Yeah, I do agree with this. And Kyron Williams, he had a hell of a day last week on the ground against the Bills. And that's how you keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands, right? So he's not scoring 6 touchdowns like he did last week against the Rams. Yeah, Ben Johnson, man. Curious from your perspective. I put Dan Campbell on the on the thumbnail for the show, and the reason I did that is because he is a very polarizing individual. And I say this as an Eagles fan. Nick Sirianni is my head coach for my squad. Also very polarizing individual. Love or hate him, or love or hate that decision at the end of the game last week. Obviously, it wins you the game. But from a Lions fan perspective, do you love that type of aggressiveness at the end of the game? Some people call it recklessness. Some people call it aggressiveness. It depends the way you look at it, depending on your perspective. As an Eagles fan, I look at it kind of like aggressiveness. It is approaching recklessness. It is approaching that, but you live and die with your identity at the end of the day. Yeah, this is it, Darius. Yeah. We loved it with Nick until it stopped working. At the end of the day, though, what would Nick Sirianni do in that situation? He'd probably run the tush push, right? Anything within 2 yards, he's probably going to run the tush push in a win or die situation. So it is interesting. Yeah, I think that's fair. You just live and die with your team's decisions. That's fair enough. That's all we can do at the end of the day. You can rip your hair out if you want, but I don't think it's going to change the decision. So, fair point, man. It's going to be interesting to see how the Lions finish out this season. I need you guys to drop like a game or two if you could. Bills, Bears, Niners, Vikings the rest of the way for the Lions. So they do got a tough schedule. Those divisional games are always a little tricky. You do got the Chicago Bears in Chicago, a little bit of cold weather there. But this is the game that I'm looking at as an Eagles fan. Like, it has to be this one. You have to lose this one for us to have a chance at the 1 seed. Even if they lose this one, to be clear, there's still a good chance the Lions would win the 1 seed in the NFC. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Yeah, it's facts. That's what we realized this year in Philadelphia. Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. Yeah, this is facts. This is good insight. Appreciate the comments here, guys. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're in the same boat, James. We're in the same boat. Um, I'm not a Lions hater, though. I don't think I think it would be weird to hate the Lions. Um, the Lions haven't done anything to us yet, but we could build a little bit of a rivalry, something in the postseason that could get interesting if we get to match up specifically in that NFC Championship. It can create history, and then we'll have something to look back on and bicker about, depending who comes out on top. So it will be interesting. Would love to have you here for the rest of the season and on, James. Definitely, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button, turn the notifications on. We're here every Thursday evening and then Sunday mornings before the 1 p.m. slate. So we'll be here the rest of the way. Sharing some love in the comments. We love that. Building a community. That's what it's all about. Yeah, I hear that, James. Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate that. Let's finish out the slate here. Little bit of an intermission. We love to get the commenters involved in the show. That's what it's about. Monday Night Football, I wanted to start with Chicago Bears. This is in division for you, James. 4-9, visiting the Minnesota Vikings, 11-2. Minnesota 7-point favorite in this one. I do like Minnesota at home. I do think that the Chicago Bears are this weird team that could play spoiler, specifically within their division, to where they're going to play these teams very close. They obviously know each other very well. But I do like Minnesota at home to win this game ultimately. Yeah, it is Go Bears. Don't get it twisted, Darius. It is Go Bears basically the rest of the way. We need them to play the Detroit Lions stuff as well. But I do like Minnesota at home. They did prove a little bit to me last week, not just by beating the Atlanta Falcons, but by annihilating them, by whooping their ass. That really impressed me for the Minnesota Vikings. Seeing Sam Darnold able to put up those type of numbers, I get it, it's Sam Darnold, but it is what it is. He put up the numbers. It was impressive for me. So I'll take the Minnesota Vikings in that one. We have two Monday Night Football games. So Atlanta visiting the Las Vegas Raiders, 2-11 on the season. The Raiders are 6-7 for the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons are 5.5-point favorites. I am going to go Atlanta on the road, although they've been very shaky this year, to say the least. The spread, I would stay away. I would stay away from the spread. I feel like the Raiders could play them tough at home. The Atlanta Falcons just aren't that good. Kirk Cousins is on the brink of being benched, quite frankly, with his play the last couple weeks. We'll see how this game goes. It's a game the Atlanta Falcons should be able to bounce back in, but I'm not putting my money on it. All right. Final game of the slate. It's not the final game of the weekend, technically. It's Sunday Night Football. So Monday Night Football is obviously what ends us off here. But Sunday Night Football is the better, bigger matchup for my money. And we have the 9-4 Green Bay Packers visiting the 8-5 Seattle Seahawks. Green Bay coming into this one, 2.5-point favorites. This is a tough matchup for me to predict. This is a very good matchup. Obviously has huge playoff implications. I'm just double checking here in the conference. So right now, well, let's go to playoff seeding rather. So right now, the Seattle Seahawks are 8-5, so they have the NFC West division title as of right now. The next team in that race looks like the LA Rams. So I believe they are one game ahead of the Rams, one loss, which the Rams already played this week, actually. So yeah, this is obviously a big game for Seattle. They need to stay ahead of the Rams, separate themselves from the Cardinals and the 49ers some more. You look at the Packers, they're just trying to keep up with the Vikings and the Lions at this point. Obviously not a strong chance of winning their division after the loss last weekend, but they do need to stay at pace to make the playoffs ultimately. Because I'm looking at the playoff picture right now, and in the NFC, you have Minnesota 11-2. That's your first wild card team, obviously. Green Bay 9-4. That's your second wild card team. But right after them, you have the Washington Commanders that are 8-5. The Commanders are playing. Who are they playing? New Orleans. New Orleans without Derek Carr today. I expect the Commanders to come away with a W. They come away with a dub. That's 9-5. Green Bay loses that game, loses this game. They drop to 9-5. So now you have the same record as the Washington Commanders. Puts you one step closer to the likes of the LA Rams, who are 8-6. So once again, this is just a huge, huge game when it comes to playoff implications in the NFC. Nah, I'm not. Hey, I'm not jinxing anybody. I'm not jinxing anybody here, James. Not at all. Good luck, man. 11-2 wild card. Yeah, the Minnesota Vikings. So that division powerhouse this season. Even the Packers. I look at the Packers right now. For my money, Detroit, Philadelphia at the top of the NFC, right? Then I would probably go. I'll give the nod to Minnesota at this point. They're 11-2. I'll give them the nod over the Packers, although I do like Jordan Love over Sam Darnold. Green Bay would probably come in at number 4 in like teams I don't want to play in the postseason. Well, number 3, it would be Detroit, Minnesota, and then Green Bay. But Seattle's getting into that conversation. That's the point here with this matchup. Seattle's earning their way into that conversation. Seattle has won, let's see, I want to say 4 straight. Yeah, so they've won 4 straight against the Niners, Cardinals, Jets, and Cardinals again. So 4 straight since that loss to the Rams 5 weeks ago. The Seahawks are playing better football, man. This one is in Seattle. Otherwise, I would totally lean Green Bay in this one. But in Seattle makes it a little sticky. You got DK Metcalf, JSN. You got some weapons out there. I do believe Kenneth Walker is out, so it will be Charbonnet getting the start in the backfield. But he was a monster last week, and he's a very talented back as well. Who's going to play clean, Geno or Jordan Love? Who's going to have the clean game out of these 2 quarterbacks? I think that will ultimately be what decides it, but I am going to go ahead and lean towards the Seattle Seahawks tonight at home. Once again, not touching this game from a spread perspective. What's the total at here? Let's see. $46.5, 47. These are solid defenses. I think this could be not a low scoring matchup. I'm not sold on a high scoring matchup. I guess that's the best way to put it. 2 solid defenses, could be a couple turnovers each way for my money here. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, what do I like in this game? Maybe JSN props. He's been a monster lately. Yeah, he's had at least 4 receptions. So at least 4 receptions his last 6 games. At least 4 targets being the lowest against the Jets in the last 6 games. At least 70 receiving yards in the last 6 games. So JSN might be a move there depending on where his lines are set. Charbonnet, yeah, I have seen that prop all over. I think the line's moved a little bit, but he is a back that gets involved in the receiving game. So that is another one that I've seen floating around there. Jordan Love passing touchdowns is always interesting to me, although Josh Jacobs just had, a 3 touchdown game against the Lions last week. So we'll see. I think the Packers are going to have to pass it a little bit more this week against the Seahawks. Seahawks got a sturdy defense, man. It's a great matchup for tonight, although you could have made you could have made the Bills and the Lions the Sunday Night Football matchup. You could have put Eagles and Steelers at 1 p.m. and you could have put Seahawks and Packers at 4. That would have made a ton of sense to me. You could have put the Eagles and Steelers at 1 and just left the Lions and Bills at 4. That would have made a ton of sense to me from a viewing perspective, an interest perspective, a ratings perspective for the NFL. But I don't know. I guess they have something with putting competitive games at the same time so that you can't watch all of them. Watch McKinney for the Packers. He's a dirty player. Interesting. So that's something to keep an eye on from the defensive perspective. I know he's a guy who has a ton of interceptions this year. I know he started the season like a 6-game interception streak, something like that. So he has a prowess for getting turnovers, but something to keep an eye on in that Seattle Green Bay game. I'm sure you are rooting for the Seahawks, James. But no, that's a hell of a matchup. We have probably 3 like legitimate playoff matchups here. 3 legitimate playoff matchups this weekend. Best bets, I've kind of hinted at them throughout the show here. I did see the Quay Walker stuff. Yeah, I did see that. My first best bet, mentioned it at the beginning of the show. I do like KC on the road today, and I do like them to cover the 4-point spread. Excuse me, I got like hiccups or something, man. It's this energy drink I've been drinking this morning. Got me like burping and all types of shit here. But nonetheless, I do like KC -4 at Cleveland. I just feel like all these close games the Kansas City Chiefs have been having of late, let me put it this way. It's either time for them to lose or it's time for them to get a blowout win against a bad team. I'm going to go with the blowout win against the bad team in the Cleveland Browns. That was at -112 when I got that last night. For the 4 p.m. slate, like I said, I'm staying away from like spreads, money lines in this Detroit-Buffalo game. But I do like the odds for Josh Allen rushing touchdown, anytime touchdown today. He's going to have to put on a Superman-like performance to compete with the Detroit Lions in Detroit. And I do see him getting in the end zone. He got in there 3 times last week, and I don't think he gets in 3 times this week. But I do think he gets in there at least once. They're going to need him to use his legs today. So that's +120 for Josh Allen, anytime touchdown. And then my last best bet, this is actually going back to the 1 p.m. slate. I'm riding with the Bengals, man, against the 3-10 Tennessee Titans. It is in Tennessee, but I'm trusting Joe Burrow and these cats out there from Cincinnati. I'm trusting Jamar Chase, obviously. I'm trusting T. Higgins. Cincinnati -5.5 at -108 is a play that I love today. I just feel like this is a game for Cincinnati to let out some frustrations. If I had to pick a touchdown scorer, I'm biased here. He's on my dynasty team. I'm going T. Higgins, though. He's a touchdown machine this year when he's played. He did not score last game, but the 3 previous games leading up to that one that he's played in had a touchdown in each of those. So I do like T. Higgins in the red zone today to score as well. That is going to be it for week 15 slate preview here for the NFL Turf Talk YouTube channel. James, Darius, all of you viewers out there, it looks like there's several others out there viewing right now on the YouTube and Twitter pages here. So if you're viewing right now, be sure to subscribe to the NFL Turf Talk YouTube channel. Turn the notifications on so you're notified each and every time we go live. We are generally here Thursday nights, roughly around 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Then we get back on here Sunday mornings, anywhere from 10:30 to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to subscribe, turn the notifications on, and tap in on Thursday. We will see you back here. Cheers to a plentiful NFL slate here in week 15. That is going to be it for this episode of NFL Turf Talk. Thank you, guys. Peace.